Hello and welcome back everyone to Last Level Press. I'm Mr. Black and I've got a bit of news for you all. First off, we have crested 700 subscribers here on the channel. Actually, a couple dozen more than that as of today. I think we're into the 20-somethings of the 700s by now. And this is just moving so quickly. I love it. We've also, along with that, crested 80,000, sorry, jumping a little ahead of myself, total channel views. And I liked that those two just kind of fell together really neatly on the same day. And I recognize that compared to the great titans of YouTube, these are paltry numbers. But for us in our path moving forward, these are still really cool little milestones. Now, that said, I'm not treating this as a numerical milestone community vlog. I'm gonna wait until 1,000 to do another one of those, and I'm gonna try to do something a bit more interesting and, I don't know, community engaging, maybe something a little bit more, silly and fun, like I kind of did with the last one, because I like to have fun with those. I like to make them more of a celebration than just saying, hey, by the way, numbers. And I don't really want to flood the channel with a lot of those, because I know that can get kind of old, even though I mean everything I say when I say thank you guys so much. But it's just, I've seen a few channels where it's like every 100 people or every 1,000 people, and it's like every other day. And I'm like, yay, you're expanding really quickly, but can we get to the things we actually subscribed for? But that's a great problem to have, to expand that fast like we are. But I just wanted to note that because I'm excited, okay? Now, the major news for today is announcing that there will be no Friday night live stream next week, Friday, August the 22nd. I will be out of town for a few days, and Vi will be with me. We will be visiting my grandma out in El Paso, who is turning 90 years old. Yeah, really, like, I can't miss that. That is amazing. So you can still get a taste of our live stream goodness that day, hopefully, as I'm going to make a point of releasing the first of our live stream highlight reel videos on that day, so that you guys can still get a little bit of that. And I admit, I've been a little bit lazy about getting those done, as they're always a bit of a back burner project, whereas things like Dino Month and my usual Let's Plays always take precedent over them, since those are kind of a secondary project. But now seems like a really good and appropriate time to really make sure that I get those done and start making them a regular thing, because it's the first time I will ever have had to miss or cancel a live stream. We've actually done it week by week ever since we got started, and I don't like to miss it, but again, when a woman turns 90, you show up for that. And now, on that note, before I close, I want to let you guys in on a little something that I just can't really get out of my head lately, and I apologize in advance, but I may get a little stream of consciousness-y here. And first off, I usually, if you notice, I keep glancing like forward and back. No, I'm not just being totally ADD and looking around everywhere. I usually use an outline for vlogs like these to keep on topic. The first few vlogs that I did, I didn't, and they were everywhere, and I hated that, because when I write, like to think of myself as being fairly concise and articulate, but when it's coming out the word hole, not always so much. It's kind of a mess. So I've had hell writing this part, because there are things that I want to say, and yet I didn't really know how to segue into them, how to phrase things, so I was constantly rewriting it over and over and over again. So I'm just going to freeform it, touch on my outline whenever I need to, and whatever else comes out is just what I have to say on the matter. And that is, I need to recalibrate my personal expectations. What do I mean by that? I know that I have not followed through on 100% of the things that I have announced as upcoming projects to you guys, lately and in general. But especially lately, and I can't just not address that any longer. I don't have it in me to pretend like that's not happening. Things like Payday 2, Dark Souls, Vampire the Masquerade, these are all things that I've announced as projects that are upcoming, along with the Fallout New Vegas Let's Play, that are all still in the works. I've got no intention of nixing any of these projects, but I can't help but feel like I've been a bit disingenuous to have promised these things, some of them weeks, if not over a month ago, and yet still haven't delivered on them this long later. And I know what a lot of you guys are going to say already, because you are all awesome, amazingly supportive people who've been incredibly understanding and receptive to everything that I've done, and I cannot thank you guys enough for that, seriously. But to those who are going to want to tell me, you're being too hard on yourself, do what you can, and we will support you, I know! And the thing is, I haven't even received any comments asking about any of this. This is all coming from me. This isn't in response to anyone's question or criticism, much to my surprise, in fact, as self-analytical and critical as I am. I know I'm really getting into my own head about this. But if nothing else, it makes me feel better to be open about it, to share that with you guys, to be transparent and honest, so that no one is disappointed or confused when it comes to what I'm working on, what I'm doing, what I've promised, what I'm still going to carry through on, and all of that. I'll just come up with these ideas that I get so excited about, and I'll announce them to you guys in that excitement, and then reality catches up a couple of days later, as if to say, hey, guess what, you seem to have forgotten a couple of really important little things, like the fact that there are only 24 hours in a day, and you kind of need to do these little things like, you know, sleep, and eat food, and have some downtime so that you don't go completely bonkers insane. And, yeah, I know all that. I know all that. And I guess what I'm really trying to say here is I'm sorry for giving my word on things that I could not deliver as soon on as I intended. And I always make it a point to keep my word. I try to be really old school about that, and I always will. But I guess I just feel like even though I purposely did not give you guys a definite date for those things launching, because I knew that some of them were going to take a bit longer than others. So I haven't really gone over a promised due date or anything. I kind of had one in my own head about a lot of these things, and since I feel like I've gone over those dates in my own expectations for myself, I feel like I haven't been completely honest with myself, if not to you guys. I project a lot of things onto the audience that I keep up here as well, and yeah, that. I just felt like it needed to be said to address those things. And that I will try to be a bit more realistic about the projects that I'm going to be working on. Again, none of the things that I've announced are going away. None of the projects that I've announced are getting nixed. They're all going to get worked on in due time. But a little bit of this came up during the Dino Week turned Dino Month, that I had all these grand ideas, I had all these projects that I wanted to do, and then come time to edit them all together, I realized I just don't have the time. Even if I were to work on these for 24 straight hours, they just were not all going to get done in the time that I had allotted for myself. And that was my mistake. That was my overestimation of my ability to deliver on things. So for that, I want to apologize and be transparent with you guys. Now, one more thing on that note that I would like to address, more to head off questions than anything else, is that no, on the topic of Dino Month, I have not forgotten about it. I know it's been a few days since the last Dino-themed episode, and while I'm sure some of you guys are relieved, you Dino-hating commies, others may be a bit confused by that, because, Mr. Black, didn't you say there was going to be more Dino stuff throughout the month? That's why you went from Dino Week to Dino Month? Yes! And this goes back to a bit of what I was just talking about. Life came up, and for a number of reasons, some public, some very personal, I have not actually recorded anything for several days. I've been falling back upon banked content, whether it's reading from the Elder Scrolls, some of the Gmod stuff that we marathoned with a couple of our usual stream regulars and our moderator the other night, and I've been uploading those and editing those together for upload sort of in advance, because I just have not been in the right headspace to record for a couple of days now, to be positive, to be energized and sharp like I usually try to be for the camera, and I just can't bring myself to upload anything in that off frame of mind that I know I could do better than were I on point like I usually am. I just can't bring myself to upload something that I know I can actually deliver a better product than. I mean, as you can see now, because I'm recording this, I've gotten out of that rut, but just barely. I've been really, really drained lately, both mentally and emotionally, so I'm actually rather glad that I'll be going away later in the week, or next week, depending upon when you see this and when this gets released. So it'll give me time to kind of disconnect and unplug and sigh a little bit of relief from the world for a little bit, so that I can just kind of relax and recharge and get back to being myself for a while, because I feel like I've been really haggard lately, and I don't like how I've been a bit short-tempered. I've been really just spacey and unfocused. I usually pride myself on despite the fact that I'm kind of ADD and I talk everywhere, I usually, when I zero in on something that I'm going to do, it just happens. I set my mind to it, and I've not really been doing that lately. I lack the focus that I've usually got, and I recognize it means, okay, it's time to step back, take a breather, recollect myself, and then return to things at full force. So, with all of that said, I'm now going to basically contradict everything I just said and say that I will be roasting the candle at both ends for the next couple of days, for the rest of the week, so that I can queue enough content to release at least one episode a day while I'm gone. We will be gone for 4 or 5 days, and after a trip that's like 700 miles from where I now live, it used to be 500 from where I used to live, 700 miles from here, 2 ways in only those few days, I am still going to be rather drained, as relaxing as the trip is, of course, going to be. So the last thing I want to do, as soon as I get back, is sit down, turn on a camera, and start recording something. I'm just like, hi guys, welcome back to the last... I'm just... And that will be entertaining for absolutely no one. So I'm going to do my homework on exactly how to actually go about the queuing process. I don't know exactly how to do that, so if any of you guys do and have played around with that a bit before, you understand some of the more advanced features of YouTube, do let me know in the comments below. I mean, I know it's doable, I know it's possible, as I've seen other YouTubers do it whenever they go out of town, they go on vacation, they get flown out to events and things like that, and they queue things to release while they're away. So I know it's possible, I just don't know exactly how, but I will try to get that sorted before I leave. Other thing is, I'm going to try to keep my word from before and not make any promises that I might not be able to keep. That's kind of the thing that I've really been trying to get into my head lately. But you guys do have my word on all of this. All that said, that I will try to make that happen, to get episodes out there while I'm away. That way the channel doesn't just completely fall silent. Of course, that does mean that I will be unable to respond to comments. I will be absent from the forums. We maybe be able to respond to a few things via, if we can take a tablet with us or maybe a laptop. But my grandma's kind of old school. She kind of thinks the dial-up is still the way of the day, and the internet will not necessarily be incredibly accessible to us while we're out in the middle of the desert. I think we may be staying at a hotel, so if they have Wi-Fi, I may be able to connect that way, but in that regard, I make no promises. I will be absent from most of our usual responsiveness, which I try to pride myself on always answering comments and stuff. I take that cue from one of the sort of YouTube idols that I've got, Jacksepticeye, who is very, very engaged in his community, and I love that about him. He's very aware of himself as a leader of a community, as an entertainer, and that's an amazing quality to have in somebody that does this all the time. And it's something that a lot of people just lack the strength to do. It has caused a lot of other YouTubers to shrink away from their audience, because of course anytime you get more than like a dozen people following you, yeah, you're gonna attract haters, and that just, it comes with the territory. Negativity is of course going to get thrown your way. But I like the fact that that has not kept him from really keeping on top and engaged with his own audience, and I try to absorb that same sort of mentality myself. So it's gonna be weird to not be, for one, working on things every day, to not be editing every day, to not spend 12 hours at this every day for the 4 or 5 days that we'll be away, because this is a 24/7 job, and to not be doing it, I'm sure, is just gonna drive me nuts. Much less lacking any communication with you guys. Our community has really started to crop up in a really, really cool way. I know I touched on this a little bit in the previous vlog, and I've mentioned it a lot to the people that regularly turn out for our Friday night live streams. Again, no live stream on the coming Friday, Friday the 22nd, but for those of you who have not joined us on our usual Friday night live streams, 7 o'clock Central Standard Time, come and hang out with us. We all have a really fun time. And what makes it so fun is the fact that this is no longer a two-way street. This is no longer viewers and a host, or hostess, who's right off camera over there watching me. It's no longer just audience and me and Vibe. It is now a web. There's a bleed over of communication now, of you guys that are getting together, especially amongst our regular streaming community. And that's what it's become. It's become a community more than a viewership, who are going and playing things like Team Fortress 2, like Payday, like Unturned, on their own time, without us being there. And they're going and orchestrating these things and having a fun time and developing friendships that never would have existed were it not for the community that we've tried to build. And I know I talked about this a little bit on stream last night, but again, there's only now about 20 or so regulars for stream, but there's what, how many numbers was it? 700 and something. So yeah, a lot more, several hundred more of you that have not turned out for that. And I just, it's always on my mind. It's one of the most positive things about this channel. And I've run out of pretty much all of my outline. This is where things start to go off the rails, but it needs saying. It merits mention. The fact that that is exactly what I wanted when I set out to build this community. It's what we were aiming for when we were starting to really focus on the community aspects of Last Level Press. We of course started out with the professional ideas that we had in mind, but once it became clear that we wanted to be more than just a news outlet, more than just an entertainment outlet, we wanted to be just at the top, kind of steering the boat, as it were, for the analogy that I've used before, of an entire community of like-minded people that can actually interact amongst themselves, to see that we are actually attracting the types of personalities that I wanted to become the core of our community, and that those types of personalities, those helpful, those positive, those friendly, those informed gaming people even those who don't necessarily even enjoy the games that we're playing, of course everybody's got different tastes, that hang out just for the company. The fact that those people are the ones that we're attracting, and that find enough enjoyment out of our content and our community to want to stay, is just mind-bogglingly awesome. It really is its own reward. As lame as that sounds to say, as cliched as it is, it really, really is its own reward. To recognize that this is our community becoming what we set out to make it become. And that is not just our doing. In fact, it is 99% not our doing. We just create the content, and you guys are the community. I mean, again, hundreds of you. 2 of us. As far as the video end of things goes. When it comes to the articles, 3 of us, with Eddie, writing all of our print reviews on lastlevelpress.com. Again, if you guys want like film and anime and stuff, which we don't cover in most of our video content, print reviews, Atticus, he's all over that. The fact that that is what's going on is just awesome and staggering. So at this point, as usual, I've started to repeat myself. So I think with that, I have covered everything that needs covering for today's vlog. I know most of this was rather personal, but again, I feel a bit more cleansed for having mentioned it all to you guys. That way nobody is confused as to whether or not things that I've announced as upcoming projects are actually going to happen. Yes, they are, but I'm no longer going to push myself quite as hard to try and get them out just immediately, because that was what was stressing me out, part of it at least, for a while. It was the reality check of, oh god, I've announced all of these things that I do not have time for, and I hate to disappoint you guys. So I'm going to try to be a bit more realistic about that, and that was kind of the points of this whole vlog. So, thank you all so very, very much for your support and for joining us here at Last Level Press. I'm Mr. Black, and as always, I wish you all good gaming, and Godspeed. Who's the white guy? Needs a bullet to the brain. Offer you can't refuse. That offer is lead in your skull, right in your face hole. Oh god.